Born on a bayou. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? It is Friday, and hey, we're here, and hey, it's all cool. Beautiful day. Can't complain about any of it because it is just fantastic. So, I trust all of you are doing good as I look in here, and it looks like we're getting on live. It's got this delay, as y'all know. It's far out. It's truly is what I would call time travel. I can see myself. I can see 4 miles. Anyway, kind of laid back Friday. It really is. Just enjoying it. And these kind of days that I don't know what it is on the other side. I don't know what kind of light is there. Obviously, there's a different light. But this star, it can those rays, man. I mean, that energy, that radiation just warms your whole body up and you're out there and all is good. So favor be to us all, right? Nothing missing, nothing broken. The freaking world could use some favor. Wow, what's wrong with our species? Hey, Cindy, what's up? Alice, hello, good to see you. Lucky Stone, how are you doing, brother? Seeing you're loving your comments. Lost in Space, how's it going? Peter, what's going on? Purgatory Traveler, yeah. Multiversal God King. I love that. That is far out. Deborah, how you doing, darling? Emperor Rex and who else? Mr. Floyd is in the house. Viola, Destruction Industries. I love that. Me, M. Ray, how are you? Caught you live. Exactly. Hey, Goddess, how you doing, darling? Looking good and bright as always. And to all the rest of y'all who are listening in, thank you for participating in the chat. And how are you doing, Pen Greedy? I know we'll see Go from Croatia and all the rest. Scotty Boy, David Berry. Yeah, the ladies as well. So I got the Born on the Bayou thing still going on in my head. You know, that opening riff, it's, mesmerizing. It's one of those things that you hear that and you know exactly that is Creedence Clearwater, John Fogerty. Trina, how are you, darling? Saw you on Robert V's Milky Way Soul Tribe. Have to talk about that next week. Mark, how is it going? Good to see you, Paul Joe. Yeah. So I'm your bus driver for the next hour. And DJ, if you tune in early, we always got the tunes going on. Carol, how are you doing? It is a happy Friday. Nina, how are you doing, dear? Good to see you. Stephen Jacobs, hello. It's just a groovy day. So dimensional wars. Imagine if sentient life, I guess consciousness, can exist in the multiverse, multi-dimensions, it would then imply that then consciousness has the ability to transcend those dimensions. Now, follow me on this. So if consciousness can exist in any plane, any dimension, then what does that say? What if there is an intelligence, an intelligent consciousness that far ascends us? I mean, we're not even in the rearview mirror anymore. Let's just continue. Now, it seems like what we would define evil as domination, slavery, manipulation, whatever you want to call it, indentured. It's like, okay, all right, so continue. So let's say that is not limited by a level of intelligence. You possibly could have one of the highest intelligent consciousness where slavery, bondage is very important. It's like, how many pieces do I have on my side? How many ever played the game of Risk? You know what it's about. Yeah. Stratego is another one. The idea is to freaking conquer the world, right? So you're conquering realms, you're conquering dimensions. Now, if that could happen, would we be aware of that the fact that this is dimensional in its structure? When we're talking about shadow people, and by the comments and just by the amount of emails, well, Dorothy, we ain't in Kansas anymore because it would appear they're everywhere. So now, I haven't read of anyone particularly being harmed physically, unnerved, frightened, surprised. There's a lot of different words on that. Hey, Mary Wins, Lady Ellie, how are you doing? See, lady? Mm-hmm. Melissa, what's up, girl? Good to see you. So let's say that there is, in fact, this war. Now, in my former religion, I was really versed on this construct of this angelic war going on. The war never stopped. That's the thing most Christians are most deceived by. It never stopped if you follow the script. Know what I mean? But anyway, so as a Christian, born again, spirit-filled, tongue-talking, name it, claim it, I knew how to do it. If it was to control God, in the Bible, it actually says that you can control God. Yeah, you'll have to do what you command him to do. People say, where the hell is that in the Bible? Study the damn thing. I'm not here to give you all the answers. If you study, it sticks with you. But let's get back to this war. It never stopped. So if you follow that construct, it's very transmutable over into a dimensional war. Isn't that what the spirit is? It's a different dimension, right? So if there's war going on in that dimension, we're seeing it in our dimension. Well, it would follow logically that it would be in other dimensions. So I'm going somewhere with this. Reading some of the comments on the side. Hey, Joyce, how you doing? So what if these shadow people that appear to be able to master matter, whether it's light of a different nature. By the way, as your bus driver and DJ, I found it interesting that this whole Genesis 1 thing, a lot of people just don't want to touch it. Like, yeah, it's Tiger. I see where you're going. Yeah, I can follow. But they don't want to, delve into it. So what is this? What if? And that's my whole point. What if these shadow figures are actually the Genesis 1:26 people? Races. Apparently, it seems to be many of them. We're going to be reading in that. And what if the current construct we're facing as a species is, in fact, being controlled by an other dimensional being, group, species? Fill in the blank. Chris says, what does it matter? It matters a lot. Because what if there was a way to begin to communicate? I haven't read any book yet, and I got another one I'm going to show you that no one has made a direct attempt, I guess, to talk to them. Or maybe we do. Maybe they channel their thoughts. It would make sense. Talking is a real pain in the ass. Whereas, I could just simply through telepathy lay my thoughts upon your thoughts. The confusion would be gone, right? It's like, yeah, man, I can dig that. Just saying, though. Hello, William. How you doing? Kim, good to see you. Back ass words, weird world. Good to see you. I love that one. That was a cool one. So, under the current construct, doesn't matter which religion you look at, there appears to be a dimensional war. It seems to show, the Hindu version of it, the Chinese version of this war, it's really a far out trip. We're going to get into some of it. The blue people, who and what are they? They showed up in the Egyptian. So these blue people, they appear to be humanids, bipedals, but they seem to possess a knowledge that we don't. They had flying spaceships, 7,000, 8,000 years ago. In India, it was no big deal. They apparently had these gods, these dimensional beings in this battle where they had lasers. They used light as a weapon. And apparently they also had the atomics as well. Reference to Dune. But yeah. So it's a dimensional war having many different characteristics. So one of the possibilities here, as we get more into this, hey, Jackie, good to see you. Hey, Caz, much love, darling. GL says, yeah, Baramas, yeah. Is that just throwing it out there as a possibility? What if they're not nefarious? What if they're benevolent beings? And what if thought is the only true way that they communicate? They seem to many times appear when we are asleep. But when we're asleep, it's also maybe the best time that they can influence our dreams. Humans naturally can be influenced in their sleep. Just read an article on that. It was quite fascinating. All of us could be very susceptible to word plants, manipulation of thought. But here again, many times people have dreams and they bring forth wonderful revelation, a new invention, a new song, a new book. So what if they're not these creepy beings? And what if the second dimension, or whatever dimension they do come from, maybe they're not from a different dimension. Maybe they're right here, having the ability to have changed. I don't know. The Genesis 1:26 people didn't have a body, didn't appear to have a corporeal body. I don't know what they had. We know that there was this light and this darkness that we have no understanding of. That's a whole mind trip within itself. So you get back to this and you go, it requires a little more thought. Your subconscious believes everything. There's a lot of truth to that. Then you got the higher conscious. So what do we have with ourselves? Does it exist within all of us that we have this imaginary round table, or maybe it's just chairs, and there's different aspects of your personality? I'll bring Robert V in as our volunteer. So we got Robert V, and we're able to peer inside Robert V's psychic, And so we see angry Robert, we see loving Robert, we see skeptical Robert, and however many different Roberts there are. And you can see that the complexity of the level of this. But then again, it's all within, isn't it? I don't know. It's just one of those things. So Robert, thank you for volunteer. But it is true. And so we're going to continue on reading in this. Hey, CJ, what is that? Trouble is, no one is satisfied with the simple things in life like past generations. And it was interesting. Thanks. Robert says, I'm good at a volunteer. Hey, brother, appreciate it. But it does make you think about, then, what is consciousness? I love the paranormal because I was grounded in the supernatural. See, the God that I thought existed was the supernatural God, the supernatural being. Well, it turned out that it probably is, in fact, just that, but not quite the way that my perception as I was molded. And, it's always interesting. I remember in the book of Ephesians, where it talks about how the word will mold you. It will work you like a artisan on a clay, bend you, mold you into whatever it wants. And, as I look at that now, I'm going, wait a minute, is it just me? But that don't sound like free will. I mean, if that is your free will to have another force alter you, it doesn't make sense. Some people are just assholes. There's a bumper sticker I saw back in the 70s, and it said, Jesus loves you because everybody else thinks you're an asshole. And if you're an asshole here, you're going to be an asshole over there. I don't think it really changes. It says that, the idea of reincarnation is that, well, it's for you to improve. Improve upon what? I mean, how can I be any more perfect or less perfect than what I already am? I mean, the only factor that would factor into the equation is that we are creatures, we are beings that seek new experiences, because new experiences add to our memories. And we dig our memories. They're prized possessions. I have no doubt in the other realm they have great value. But getting back to this whole thing, the complexity of who we are. Now, if that is the case, then I think that, well, why doesn't this complexity exist in the dimensions and the other realms that we can't see? I've known this through, Bible teachers that taught me, was that this realm, there is no empty space. None. Apparently, it doesn't exist in the spirit realm because apparently the creator is not wasteful. That's an ideology and a theology that I was taught. But yet I think there's an essence of truth within that. I don't believe that space is void, at least not in this realm. It would appear that it's very crowded. Just operates apparently on your RCA Victrola that, can you dial in the tubes right, pick up on the right frequency? Well, thank you, Balcho. It is, isn't it? I'm going to get lost in these discussions because there's always a good conversation going on in the chat room. It really is. Some of you said you couldn't see the chat replay. I see it all the time. I don't know, but y'all are some far out people, man. I mean, there is high thinkers here in this group. Yeah. As Olive Gruthers would say, a lot of freaks. And that's what we are. We're freaks, because we don't blend in anymore. We are the shadow people in some cases. It's like being at a corporate gathering and everybody else is talking and just, exchanging, but you're out there and it's like you don't exist. You're a shadow. I've seen it happen where a person, and I am thinking specifically of a situation. Anyway, they went up to this other person and said, I've been really wanting to meet you. And the person said, I didn't even see you here. And the person said, I was right over there. I didn't see you. I don't know. Hey, Freak Out is a good song, Joyce. It is. So, yeah. All right. Let's get into a little bit of the reading. This is cool stuff. Got a new book, too, that we're going to have to look at. And anyway, this was the part of the bus ride where we're just simply, kind of just rapping with one another. It's like throwing ideas out there and someone picks up on the idea. It's like playing an instrument, whether it's a clarinet, a bassoon, a guitar, a piano. If you have your instrument there and someone else may be playing something on the piano, and then all of a sudden, you come right in with, your guitar. It's just, it's how conversation goes. I see that, Mr. Floyd. That's pretty cool. I love it. So, hey, Susie Q, what's up? Good to see you, darling. So, anyway, hold on back there. That's all I got to tell you. I'm telling you, here the road's not striped. It's just a road. It's as wide as we want it or as narrow as we can make it. It's just kind of like that road they have in the Andes. You have to be out of your freaking mind to go on that road. Many of you probably know what I'm talking about. No way in hell. No. Of course, now in the sixth day, Genesis 1:26, there was no heaven or hell. But anyway, no way I would walk that thing, much less be on a bus. Hey, JD, what's up? Much love to you, brother. So, the shadow people. And isn't technically every spirit a shadow? It's a shadow in your mind. I mean, people could say, no, they manifest. Okay. But they're in another dimension. I mean, I don't know. It gets me thinking. So, does in every dimension you have to have a corporeal form? I mean, if you're bipedal here, are you bipedal there? The slide picture for the for this show today. It appears you gals get to keep your I don't know, the girls with you on the other side. Apparently, those that have fallen suddenly rise up to a new life. I mean, now I think that's cool for myself. I mean, just saying. But it appears that there is male, female. Don't see any blending going on. So I don't know, Again, I've seen female ghosts that had breasts. So I guess you carried over with you. I mean, I don't know how far that goes, but anyway, I told you we take sometimes these unexpected turns, but it is something to consider. Again, I don't see naked ghost nowhere. So I guess there's a dress code. I don't know why. I mean, it makes you think, are they all prudes on the other side? I don't know. And I'm not the only one. I guess I'm the only one that's going to say it, huh? But the rest of you go, he's bringing up a good point, you know? All right. Cheers, everyone. Hey, Morgan, what's going on? Good to see you. I also think that if you've bonded with a pet, an animal, I think they wait for you. I mean, I can't see it not that way. Lady Ellie says, a shadow is a dark area where light from a light source is blocked by an object. We are objects. I don't know. Then I'm thinking, are we objects of affection or are we objects of disdain? I don't know. It's so goosey over there on the other side, you know? If we could just have an interview, you know? If I had the one wish that I would wish for is I would like to do an interview with Lucifer. The egregore that's been created. I mean, I'd bring some of my spiced tea. I think it would be the coolest thing in the world to have this conversation. Kind of like, you know, who was the guy in the 70s? Dick Abbott, was that it? I can see his face. Who was on? Help me out here. Yeah. Anyway, you know, just kind of have a sit down. I think that would be a cool conversation. No channeling. No, I wanted to meet the physical being. If there was a God to be worshipped, wouldn't it be the epitome of the physiqueness of that of which it is? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Robert V., you're right. People see shadow people all the time. They just don't. So let's get into it. I tell you, I really appreciate all of you. You make this channel what it is. And thank you all. I mean, it's an honor. It's a privilege and it's fun. It's mentally stimulating. It's spiritually arousing. Now, you can go ahead and put whatever meaning you want behind that, but yeah. Just saying. People say, what? So check this out. So we're going to get into this. I've only gotten into a little bit of this, but this book is interesting. Now, it's more predicated on a Christian theme, but yet what I've read so far is this is The Secret War, a true story about a real alien war and shadow people. This is from Heidi Hollis. I can get it on Amazon. I have the PDF if you so wish. I mean, very interesting because this is another one of those studies that you have to figure ET into the situation. I mean, if you got angels, demons, you know, lords, overlords, and they're aliens, unless they're from here, terrestrial. And then that would indicate that there's basically this energy trap. That when we lose these corporeal bodies, that we reemerge back into it. And, the thought is that maybe we come here just to get a fucking break. Now, I'm not saying it's any better down here, but maybe it's just a shit show over there. If there is this war going on, what makes us think we're somehow exempt from it? And what makes us think that upon your death, that you're somehow, it's not going to affect you? If it's a dimensional, if it is a multi-plane war, I don't know, I would say that it probably would affect everything, wouldn't it? I mean, this God that people of the world worship, it apparently is not perfect. Apparently, if it was perfect, then you wouldn't have rebellion. Someone saw something, and so a rebellion started, a war. And the thing about it is, read your Bible. It never said it stopped. So this war that apparently, 1/3 of the angels, if you take the book of John, and actually it's in First John, that if you use his number, we're talking about somewhere about 100 trillion angels. And so if you follow the narrative of the book, so 1/3 of those 100 trillion angels fell. Well, that was suggesting there's somewhere about 33 trillion fallen angels here inhabiting this realm. Now, you look at for humanity, just do the numbers. So you've got 33 trillion of whatever the hell these things were. I mean, they could be heroes for all we know. I mean, the victor writes the narrative of history, does it not? So we, as a species, they say we're 8 billion. Well, 8 billion to 33 trillion is barely a drop in the bucket. Now, I ask you, friends, how do you win a war when you are so heavily outnumbered? Yeah, just asking for a friend. Anyway, I think this book is going to be interesting. We'll do the unabridged read through. Not today. I want to get back into our other book. So we're getting into now the science. This is chapter 2. So science rules the universe. If you drop a hammer, it falls. If you drop a hammer and a tennis ball, they fall at the same rate. If you see something that isn't physically there, it may be something biochemical or electrical dancing on your brain. But how do these rules apply in the paranormal universe? In this chapter, he says, I will look into the physics, the psychology, and neuroscience in an attempt to deconstruct the shadow people, those creatures that appear to be both solid and vapor, a waking nightmare and a sleep disorder, a real entity looming over you, and a product of electric stimulation to the brain. Basic physics. Marjorie Kay of Independence, Missouri, relates a story told by her 11-year-old granddaughter, Cynthia, about an encounter with a shadow person. She said that one night she woke up in the middle of the night to see an outline of a 6-foot tall person standing in her room, looking away from her at the TV set that had come on apparently by itself. The person turned around and looked at her for a few seconds, then just dissolved away. She said it had no features. She did not sleep the rest of the night and wouldn't even get out of bed to turn off the TV until it was daylight. Yeah, I can dig that. To Northwest Missouri State University chemistry and physics professor Rick Toomey, something solid enough to cast a shadow and hold its shape can't just dissolve. Matter comes in 3 forms: gas, liquid, and solid. And only gas dissipates into the air. If it's not solid or liquid, it has to be vapor. Gases don't maintain shape, he said, and you need a pretty high density of gas to prevent the transmission of light. So for shadow people to exist, according to physics, Toomey said, they have to be pretty dense. It has to be a physical entity that's solid. It's not liquid, it's not gas, Toomey says. That's why I have a problem with ghost opening doors. A gas isn't going to surround a doorknob and apply torque. I can't buy into that. Toomey's colleague at Northwest Missouri State Physics Department, Dave Richardson, shares Toomey's concern. Given the many reports of shadow people walking through someone's bedroom, they have to be solid. If you just look at what a shadow actually means, when they're produced, there must be a blockage of light somehow, or the removal of light in some way. From a scientist's point of view, they have to be opaque. Unless it was incredibly dense, the gas wouldn't do much. For example, smoke casts a shadow, but can't retain a shape and quickly dissipates. For Cynthia's shadow to look like a man and to turn on the television, it has to be something else. It seems a difficult thing to actually reconcile with what we know about light and shadows, according to Richardson. But what of shadow people who can exert a physical force? Like the experience of Donnie from Montana. He was sleeping on my side when I was awoke by what felt like something sitting on my bed behind me. I felt someone sticking their finger in the middle of my back. When he opened his eyes, 3 shadow beings stood around the bed. And he was afraid to look at what might be poking him from behind. Donnie had felt a touch, although the entities slowly dissipated. Yeah, I don't dig that scene too much at all, you know? And you've got the other side of this thing where people have been physically assaulted. I keep thinking of the one case, the movie they made, The Entity. You know, she was raped. And they got it on film. I mean, she was raped by something. So I'd love to ask these scientists, then how do you explain that? They'll say it was psychosomatic, but you know differently. Those 2 events don't correspond to known science. Physically, we can't feel the force extended by gas particles, Professor Toomey said. In order for you to feel pressure, you have to scuba dive or somebody drops a rock on your head. You have to have a mass to exert a physical force. That's science. So they say. Our science has been proven to be wrong before. But no, we want uniformity to the universe. I don't think there's any kind of uniformity. So for Donnie to have felt someone sitting on his bed and a poke in the back, something solid had to be in his room. To have a physical push, you have to have matter. What matter do you have? Solid, liquid, gas. From that point, you don't have many places to go. If you're feeling a touch, there has to be a push as far as physics is concerned. Of course, many people believe shadow people aren't science. People say it's not a physical force, it's an ethereal force. Professor Tommy says gravity only works in one direction. How many times did light knock you down? But people don't have to be touched to feel, as Ryan of Cape Town, South Africa, discovered when he reached into a shadow person. I was lying in bed getting ready to slumber off when I noticed that in the corner where my bed was placed, there seemed to be an exceptionally dark and dense patch. Ryan said, I told myself that it's nothing but a play of light, shadows created by my curtains. As Rayan laid there, his imagination running scenarios through his mind, is it a light trick, an intruder, a ghost? He extended his arm and reached into the void. I stuck out my hand and slowly moved it so that I could touch the corner of the wall, which was not very visible due to this dark patch. He said, as my hand touched this patch, I got a sudden sensation that can be equal to having a little shock, similar to static electricity. Rayan snapped his arm away from the dark patch. His arm suddenly started to feel very lame, with needles and pins crawling all over my skin. He said, it felt like my skin was contracting and getting very tight, and I lost all mobility of my arm. That sounds to me like one hell of an energy transfer. Wow. I mean, that's like just sticking your arm and you are the receptacle. Although Richardson agrees that something has to be solid to physically touch something else, people can occasionally feel they're being touched without really being touched. Why, of course, it's just your imagination. Maybe there was some electrical interaction, he said. There needs to be something that raises the hair on your arm that would give you the feeling that you're being touched, like static electricity on a hairbrush. Of course, if it's an electrical field that's causing this sensation, you have more immediate problems to deal with than shadow people. If you're in a high enough field like that, you don't really have to be that close to it to actually feel it. If you get too close, you get shocks that do hurt. Oh, I could go into this one. I mean, all right, so we're in an electrical field. That's why we carry EMF meters. If you have an electromagnetic field that's increasing in intensity, something's causing that. Many contend that our spirits or our souls are really electromagnetic in nature. Now, I don't know if that goes for consciousness, but it appears that it carries with us onto the other side. That's why when you go into a room that suddenly feels cold, something is feeding upon that energy, and it most likely can be detected through a device like an EMF meter. That's just my opinion. Different dimensions. One common explanation many people give for shadow people is that they're beings from a different dimension that somehow bleed into ours. Such is the conclusion of a paranormal investigator from California who goes by the online name Froggy. Froggy has seen shadow people during investigations and in his personal life. It's interesting, so many people having the same or very similar experience, he said. I too have had this phenomenon of being paralyzed, as if something was on top of me. My brothers have also had the attack, And one brother witnessed a shadow person way back in the 1980s before shadow people was a buzzword. Now, it's interesting when I look at this because there is commonality. If we were doing a statistic analysis project on this, you could say that the nominal value here would be that the fact that the people in this particular arena with shadow people seem to have very much a similar experience. It seems to repeat itself with many people. Now, take the subject of NDEs, near-death experience. I have yet to read, and I have read hundreds of them, of any two people having the same near-death experience. Now, you can draw your own conclusions to that, but that would be a nominal value on there, meaning that, it isn't shared. So when I look at this probably from more of a statistical point of view, it would lend itself to more credence that there's more substantiability that something is happening to these people who have no contact, no knowledge of the other person, and they're separated by generations, yet they experience the same type of phenomenon. Again, this is class, and I am keeping my eye on the road. Let's continue. This is far out stuff. During the November 2007 trip to the Permuja mission, Froggy photographed one. I believe we live among many different dimensions. I'd have to agree with this. Froggy said, ghosts live in one dimension, shadow people in another, and our dimensions can cross, making it possible for us to come in contact with each other. But how does Froggy belief match up with science? Maria Jones, author of Science, How New Discoveries in Quantum Physics and New Science May Explain the Existence of Paranormal Phenomena, agrees other dimensions could be a possible source for shadow people. In my research into quantum and theoretical physics, I came across three concepts that really open up the possibilities to me that entities from somewhere else could be coming here, showing up as either imprinted projections or actual semi-physical manifestations, such as a poltergeist, etc., Jones said. One of the three concepts is parallel universes. Theoretically, if these infinite other universes exist, we really should not physically be able to access them based upon our known laws of physics, Jones said. Yet, even theoretical physicists entertain the thought that perhaps the laws of physics on the other side allow for some crossover. Jones's second concept has to do with spatial and temporal alternate dimensions. We are told that these dimensions could be infinite in size and exist at the tip of our very noses, she said. Again, our laws of physics do not allow us to cross into them at will. But if there is some sort of resonant synchronization of energy, perhaps a doorway is open just long enough to allow something to slip on through. The third possibility, Jones says, is the zero-point field, which is an electromagnetic energy field that fills a vacuum. Within this field lies the landscape of time, past, present, and future, she said. Linear time is only a human illusion, but in the quantum world, there is no linear nature. It all happens at once. In this field, Jones explains, is everyone who has died, is living now, and will live. Wow. That opens the door to the possibility that certain people tap into this field for information such as remote viewing, psychic abilities, and even healing others, she said. It also presents the possibility that entities may be coming from the field, manifesting in our level of reality, which is really just one among many levels, then vanishing back into the field. This, Jones said, could explain the nature of most ghost and shadow people. Although some physicists entertain the idea of these multiple or parallel universes, Richardson and Tomey aren't among them. Said Richardson, if shadow people are solid, and we kind of ignore the people who say they put their hands through them, I always hate to bring up this in this context. But if there were extra dimensions, there would be the effect of something similar. Shadow people might actually be people. I'm skeptical of that, but it's possible. We're just starting to figure out that sort of stuff. And that's the problem. You know, the science and mathematical disciplines, religions, don't touch this. But yet the fact that they work in the purest language, math, that is magical. That is in the ethereal realm. You can't show me a number, but yet accordingly, they say that we're all built of trillions of, atoms. Who knows? Tomey's not as forgiving of the theory that makes 11 dimensions possible. String theory, in which there are more than 4 dimensions, each small and string-like. String theory is math. It's not science, Tomey said. You can postulate that there are 11 dimensions. You can't test it. Until string theory produces a testable hypothesis, it's not science. It might as well be the paranormal. Interdimensional is about as science fiction as it gets. This dude's hardcore, man. But you have to give it to him. I mean, that's what we base our reality on. 3 chemical, 2 electrical. That's science. That's reality. But I happen to believe in the alchemist that has the ability to not only put in physical compounds to produce a new compound. I believe that works as well in the ethereal. But hey, they would just say I was an ignorant man. That's okay. Been called that before. Sleep paralysis. Sardonic Laconic, an online name. He is sardonic after all. Saw the shadow man as a child. The memories have haunted me ever since, he said. When I was 6, I saw it at my dad's new house, towering over the bed, he said. I couldn't move, and I don't remember what happened next. All I remember is trying to scream, but there was this horrible weight on my chest. When I used to suffer from sleep paralysis, I couldn't talk. That's the thing what frustrated me. I could think it, but I could not talk. And that's really a freaky feeling. I mean, it really is. Those of you who've ever suffered from that, it was, I finally, how I broke it is that I just determined in my will, my thoughts, saying, basically, I just said, fuck you. I was ready to fight. I mean, I grew up on the street. I don't like bullies. And I've gotten my ass whooped, but I guarantee you I've inflicted just as much on the other side. I won't take it. And, that's how I began to feel about this situation. I was ready to kick its ass. And I found that that's something that they shut down to really quickly. This extreme anger focused on them. That was just my experience. Tell me yours. This type of encounter is all too common and psychologically has a name for it, sleep paralysis. As an anonymous poster to my paranormal blog put it, it's a simple psychological phenomenon similar to sleepwalking. When you go to sleep and dream, your brain shuts down the connection to your body. so that you don't walk and thrash about in your sleep. Just because you're moving in your dreams. When this connection fails to shut off, you get sleepwalking. When you wake up before it's reconnected, you're paralyzed until it turns back on. End of story. No aliens, no shadow people, just science. April Hiren, a psychology professor at Northwest Missouri State, agrees that shadow people encounters are probably the product of dreams. Hiren said that when people sleep and enter REM phase, it's very common for them to see things. You got to have a logical explanation, right? I mean, God forbid that this really be the unknown. JD, maybe you ought to send them a few of the spirits to some of these professors. Let them meet a nighttime visitor for real. Just saying. Online poster Midnight Haze reported an experience somewhat similar to sardonyx, although during the encounter, Midnight Haze was an adult. I had lived in a 2-bedroom apartment for at least 12 years, he said. I was sleeping on my side when I was awakened by what felt like someone sitting on my bed behind me. I felt what felt like someone sticking their finger in the middle of my back, and I was now paralyzed. See the similarities of the different stories? I could not move, but I could open my eyes. When he opened his eyes, there were 3 black figures in the corner of the room. 2 were as tall as adults, and 1 was shorter. Now, in both fear of someone behind me and the figure in the corner, I started to pray to God to help me as I closed my eyes. I opened my eyes again, and the shadows were gone, and I could move again. According to Hiren, this kind of encounter, the fear, the paralysis, the entities is normal. There are hormones in REM sleep that paralyze the major muscle groups, and it's called paradoxical sleep. She said, and although this happens during REM, these people don't stay asleep, and the hormones are still in their bodies. It can last up to 8 minutes, and they feel pressure on their chest and can see people, even people they know. According to psychologists, sleep paralysis, which is known as the old hag syndrome, in paranormal circles for feeling someone sitting on your chest is relatively common. Although Carrie Moeller didn't feel the pressure on her chest when she experienced shadow people, she did, as Hyperion said, see people. Last week, mid-June 2008, I settled myself into bed and began to drift off to sleep. I was dreaming while in that half-sleep stage. In this dream, I was actually settled in the exact place I was settled. That's an odd term, settled. Asleep in my bed, on my stomach, lying on the right side of my face. So in one way, could argue that I wasn't completely asleep. Then she felt something in the room or someone. I remember feeling the presence of people at the bottom of my bed. So in my dream, I turned my head around and saw 3 or 4 shadow entities shaped like people at the bottom of my bed. Fear gripped the sleeping Moeller because this dream was lucid. She knew it was real. It seemed like they had been waiting for me to fall asleep, she said. So I called for someone to watch over me while this was happening. She felt her body rising out of the bed and floating towards these shadow beings. I had no control over my actions. As I was floating towards them, they put out their arms in front of me and immediately was pushed out back into my bed, where I woke up and could remember everything vividly. Was Carrie's encounter a dream, or was she visited by shadow people waiting for her to fall asleep? Sound like an alien abduction to me. Pretty close to it. This is some far, and listen, I like it. This is how we learn. We see exactly what science is saying because, science is everything, right? then we go by our own personal experience. And it's frustrating when you hear someone say, well, I'm telling you, you have this thing in your brain that when this happened, that probably does. But the other possibility, whether it's a fraction of 1%, says that you have to see it for what it is. Maybe it is an actual experience. So anyway, know thyself. Does anyone else know the name of this book? Darkness Walks is the name of the book. Jason, let me pull this up for you so you can actually say. Yeah, Jason Offutt, Offutt. It is available on Amazon. I bought my copy, and I'm going to reach out to actually get an interview with Jason. I think this is a subject that I'm just going to continue on with. Not every day, but staying on it. So, but we're going to continue next week. I'd like to get into the different classes of beings. Apparently, they have different personality types. And why wouldn't they? Lucky says, I never had sleep paralysis, but I have seen some scary things that once I learned about them, they became less scary. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And the sleep paralysis, now, who knows? I was recovering from spinal meningitis and Lyme disease. I was really a sick dude there. But these encounters that I had, yeah, I have told my doctor about them. I said, there's something going on here. This ain't right. But again, it seemed to break when I just, like I said, when I got angry enough that I was willing to do harm. It was like, okay, we're backing out of here. This dude's gone over the edge, So anyway, all right, folks, we're pulling back into the station here. Have a great holiday of the weekend. Party hardy, learn and grow. That's the thing we do. I'm just reading. I have to go back and read the comments in the chat room. All right, folks, have a great Saturday and Sunday. See you back on Monday. We'll be picking right back up on this same thing. I'm going to look forward to seeing the ladies. And again, if you want to come on, just tell me. We'll get you on. Hey, Pearl Jones, how you doing, darling? Robert V says, yeah, he's going to order his book. Yeah, it's a good book. And nothing missing, nothing broken. There you go, Jackie. All right, much love. Hey, Lauren, much love to you, darling. So, Chloe, now I'm catching everybody up in the chat room. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hitting the like button, and thank you for sharing. Inform other people. I know that the first 2 episodes of this, the Genesis 1 thing, blew some people's mind. It's like, what? Yeah. All right. I am Nancy. How are you? Good to see you, my dear. Mr. Floyd and AK Morningstar, we shall continue on. And thank you again for tuning in. It really is it's an honor. It really is. I sit here sometimes and I go, wow, there are like minds out there. More than what we realize, isn't it?